Thanks for joining us tonight at 5. I'm Faith Woodard. Tonight we are continuing our team coverage of a mass shooting in Dallas County. 11 civilians were shot. 3 of them are dead. A tragedy that the people of Arkansas will never forget. THV 11's Ashley Godwin and Sarah Horbakowitz are in Fordyce tonight with the latest on this rapidly developing story. Less than an hour ago, Arkansas State Police held a press conference in downtown Fordyce. We turn now to Ashley Godwin, who has the latest details on the shooting. Ashley?
Faith, this is something no city or county or state wants to see or hear about, but Colonel Mike Hager from Arkansas State Police did give us the latest information just an hour or so ago, and here's what we know so far. 14 people were shot total. Now 3 of those people have died. 2 officers were injured. There was 1 shooter. Police say that person is injured but expected to live, and that person was taken into custody. Now Mike Hager, like I said, gave us that press conference, but he had some sentimental response to tell the community.
Just on behalf of the state police, the law enforcement community, all public and first responders, it's tragic. Our hearts are broken. Our prayers, along with Governor Sanders, the entire state of Arkansas, will be with this community and with those affected victims.
Again, that was Colonel Mike Hager with Arkansas State Police, and there were several agencies that assisted today in helping Fordyce and make sure that everyone was taken care of and that this was resolved and safe after the shooting. And I didn't mention, but Mad Butcher, where the shooting took place, the only grocery store in Fordyce, is right behind me. More information is expected tonight, and Mike Hager also told us that the governor is expected to put in whatever resources she has available into making sure that Fordyce is taken care of. We are looking into this and investigating this as police do. This is still a very active scene right now, so we will be here with the latest information. Back to you, Faith.
All right, thank you, Ashley. Sarah Horbakowitz is not far from Ashley, and she has more from the people who call Fordyce home. Sarah, I understand you spoke with some folks who were in the immediate area when the first shots were fired.
Yeah, Faith, not only folks that were in the immediate area, but I actually spoke with a girl that was in the store shopping for dinner when the shooting happened. And I mean, it was just heartbreaking even to talk to her. A lot of shock right now, I think, or when we pulled up, just silence. I think that was the biggest note as people tried to figure out what happened and where do we go from here. And so, I mean, just a lot of damage as well, damage to cars, damage to the stores. We saw bullet holes through the window of the grocery store. And as Ashley said, this is the only grocery store in town. So I do want to share those stories of some of the neighbors that were in the area as well, and that woman who was in the store when the shooting happened.
We got in, the woman was like, what's going on? Was like, they shooting. So then that's when she had got like this long stick thing. We had put it in front of the door. Like, we didn't have no service in there or nothing, so we couldn't call nobody. So like I said, it was just a regular day, and it just all happened so fast.
Yeah, and she went on to tell me that when police found them in the freezer, they encouraged them to cover their eyes, cover their faces, so they couldn't see any other bodies in the store. And it's, again, I know I've said this before, but heartbreaking. It's unbelievable that this is something that's happened here, that whenever it happens, if it happens, period. A lot of people telling me they've seen something like this on TV, but this is their small town of Fordyce, Arkansas, and as Ashley mentioned, this is their only grocery store in town. So now figuring out what's next as we still unpack what happened here today. I know we're going to continue to find out more information and stay on top of this as we find out more, but for now, I'll send it back to you guys.
All right, thank you, Sarah. Again, we're following the breaking news out there this evening. Here's what we know again right now. According to Arkansas State Police, a gunman opened fire outside the Mad Butcher grocery store in Fordyce around 11:30 this morning. 11 civilians were shot. 3 of them were killed. 2 officers were also shot but sustained non-life-threatening injuries. State police did confirm that the suspect was also shot by police and was taken into custody. We're going to have more from Fordyce a little later in our broadcast. Our breaking news coverage from Fordyce continues as we work to learn more about the mass shooting that left 3 civilians dead and 8 others hurt. We're starting to see reaction from lawmakers following the tragedy. Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders shared this on social media saying, quote, "I have been briefed on the tragic shooting in Fordyce and I am in constant contact with state police at the scene. I'm thankful to law enforcement and first responders for their quick and heroic action to save lives. My prayers are with the victims and all those impacted by this horrific incident." THV 11's Ashley Godwin has been in the area all afternoon. She attended Arkansas State Police's press conference that wrapped up a little more than an hour ago. Ashley, what else are officials saying tonight?
You're right, Faith. There were a lot of agencies up from Governor Sanders down to the city helping Fordyce make sure that this is a safe place after the shooting. And I want to reiterate, the shooting happened around 11:30 this morning at the Mad Butcher, the only grocery store in Fordyce. And while I'm standing here looking across the parking lot, it's still very active. There's still police there with markers investigating, making sure they get all the crime scene evidence they need. And I can see the front of the store that has bullet holes just scattered through the window. But Colonel Mike Hager did have that press conference, and he did say that all agencies involved were helping make sure and assist with this incident.
I've been in constant contact with Governor Sanders. She's committed any resources needed to aid in this investigation or any support needed for the community of Fordyce and Dallas County.
Now, we are expected to get more information tonight. At the press conference, we weren't allowed to ask questions. They had very little to give us. 14 people total were shot. 3 of those people are dead. There were 2 officers injured. Police say there was 1 shooter. He is expected to live, and he was taken into custody. But like I said, we will keep you updated with the latest information as we get it. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Ashley. We're going to have more on that coming up. And remember, you can always find the very latest on THV11.com. We want to wrap up our show with one final check of the ongoing situation in Fordyce. A gunman opened fire at the Mad Butcher grocery store there at 11:30 this morning. 3 civilians were killed, 8 others were hurt. THV 11's Sarah Horbakowitz spent several hours at the scene talking to people. Sarah, what did they tell you about this tragic event?
Yeah, Faith, I mean, these are just conversations no one wants to have. A lot of people from the community came out to see if they could help, to check on one another once this happened. I spoke with one woman who said this is her grocery store and she's just thankful she wasn't there today, but very well could have been. And that's the same story for a lot of people I spoke to, as this is their only grocery store in town. And now I just want to share a little bit with you about what she told me earlier.
I jumped up and I praised God because I could have been in the store, because I stays in Mad Butcher. This is the only grocery store we got. And I praised him that I went in there. And I'm sorry and I hate what happened. But this is the first time something like this ever happened.
She was telling me she's seen things like this on TV, but never expected it, as no one does, to be in her own hometown. We are now seeing police presence thin out just a little bit. They're expecting to open roads in a little while as well. We're going to continue covering this tonight as we continue to learn more from officials. But for now, reporting in Fordyce, Sarah Horbakowitz, THV 11 News. I'll send it back to you.
All right, thank you, Sarah. As she said, this is a developing situation. We're still learning additional details, and I know it sounds redundant, but we do want to make sure you have the facts. According to Arkansas State Police, a gunman opened fire outside the Mad Butcher grocery store around 11:30. 11 civilians again were shot. 3 were killed. 2 officers were also shot but sustained non-life-threatening injuries. State Police did confirm that the suspect was also shot by police and was taken into custody. We're going to have more on the mass shooting in Fordyce coming up at 6 after the CBS Evening News with Nora O'Donnell. Now on THV 11 News at 5.
Emergency crews battled a dangerous gas here in White County that was released in the air from a train that caught on fire. I'm Rebecca Brown, and I have more on what we know coming up.
Well, after a hot and steamy weekend, highs in the middle 90s, we got a little break today and tomorrow. Temperatures only in the mid 80s with a little rain, but at 5:14, we'll also talk about how hot it's going to get toward the end of the week.
People are on the lookout after several bear spottings across central Arkansas. I'm Brooke Buckner with what you need to know in case you see one.
Plus, do social media sites need a warning label for kids and teens? Coming up at 5:05, recommendations from the U.S. Surgeon General and why lawmakers and medical experts say this would just be the first step. The highway between two White County towns is back open tonight after a hazmat situation shut it down for several hours. Thanks for watching. I'm Faith Woodard. This is a look at the multi-agency response that led to evacuations in the area. Those people are back at home but have a lot of questions. THV 11's Rebecca Brown spoke to officials about the situation and shares what we've learned since this afternoon.
Safety comes first. At the end of the day, everybody's good. That's all we care about.
It was a busy Monday for emergency crews in White County as they turned around car after car to keep them away from a dangerous situation.
As you can see with all the fire departments and law enforcement, we had an incident occur approximately about 10 o'clock this morning. The train incident that had a toxic spill come out of nitric acid.
Chief Dakota Burks with the McRae Police Department says the incident happened outside city limits, but the train was making its way to their town.
So I was notified by White County Dispatch that a train would possibly be coming through BB that was leaking some kind of fluid. At that time, I noticed the train was coming into McRae, so tried to get it stopped as soon as possible.
Fortunately, no injuries or casualties were reported, and neighbors like Laura Harrison believe it's because of how fast emergency crews responded.
I must say that quick action and really helped a lot, you know, but unfortunately for me, I wasn't hearing it because I was trying to get ready. And so when I went that way, I knew something was going on with a lot of sirens.
Chief Burks predicted this to be an all-day event to get rid of the nitric acid, but that changed a few hours into the response.
Normally you don't see this type of things every day. Being in this line of work, it's always different, and we're always ready to respond for something when something does happen like this.
According to Union Pacific, as precaution, homes and businesses within a half-mile were evacuated until the incident was clear. In McRae, Rebecca Brown, THV 11 News.
Thank you, Rebecca. Like we said earlier, Highway 367 from BB to McRae is back open. As for the cause of the incident, Union Pacific is investigating.
Well, we've been telling you the last several days that we'd have a chance of rain today. In fact, we did see scattered showers and thunderstorms and a little bit of rain in that last story you just saw. Most of it is due in part to some tropical moisture from a disturbance that is moving through eastern Arkansas. Some heavy downpours with this activity this evening and a few more popping up in the heat of the day. So we'll have a few hours of a chance of rain or thunderstorms. One thing, the temperatures will held back today from the clouds and the rain. Little Rock 83, but where the rain has ended, 93 down in Camden, 78 Jonesboro. Again, mainly eastern Arkansas getting most of this activity. Tonight we'll continue with a chance of rain and thunder, then cloudy skies, lows in the 70s. Tomorrow we'll have another small chance of showers and storms, and then from there we'll begin to see those temperatures heat up again. I'll talk about that in your upcoming forecast.
Tom, thank you. New tonight at 5, THV 11 is working to learn more about a weekend homicide in Hot Springs. Hot Springs tells us that on Saturday night, just after 11:30 p.m., they responded to a shots fired call at a home in the 300 block of Birchwood Bay Road. Now, when they arrived, they found the body of 27-year-old Amber Reynolds, who had been shot and killed. After a short investigation, the police developed a male suspect, but he was later found dead in Jefferson County. Jefferson County deputies are investigating the death of the unnamed man as death by suicide. Authorities are still working to find out what happened. If you know anything, you're asked to contact Hot Springs Police. Lawmakers are back at the Capitol today to kick off a special session. On the to-do list, setting a budget for game and fish next year and possible tax cuts. THV 11 Sarah Horbakowitz joins us live at the Capitol. Sarah, the fiscal session ended with a lot up in the air. Is it smooth sailing for these bills?
Yeah, Faith, the reason we're back here is because the House and Senate couldn't agree on a game and fish budget. But there have been a few weeks for lawmakers to work behind the scenes, and now things are moving along quickly. Committees passing through that budget and possible tax cuts in just about 15 minutes each. But here's what that means for you. That possible income tax proposal now moves to the Senate floor. It would lower income taxes by 0.5% for anyone who makes more than $25,000 a year. And anyone who makes more than $90,000 a year could get even more of a tax break. This would use about $320 million each year. And while some legislators strongly support the cuts, easily passing it through committee, others want those funds to instead support state resources.
25,000, anyone below that's already paying a reduced rate below the 3.9%, and so when you're cutting that top rate, it's going to help everyone down to 25,000.
We don't meet the needs. Many people who need mental health services end up in prison or end up homeless. So how can we justify letting go of that revenue before we fix those kinds of problems?
If passed, tax cuts would also be retroactive to the start of the year, so you could expect a bigger tax cut return with it. Today's special session also brings the game and fish budget one step closer to approval, which has to happen before the end of the month in order to keep the department, including your hunting and fishing licenses, up and running. The Senate returns at 9 a.m. tomorrow, where they will vote on that possible income tax cut. Reporting at the Capitol, Sarah Horbakowitz, THV 11 News.
Sarah, thank you. Turning now to education news. Hours ago, University of Arkansas System President Dr. Donald Bobbitt announced a new interim chancellor for the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. Bobbitt tapped current UAPB Provost and Vice Chancellor of Academic Affairs, Dr. Andrea Stewart, to lead the university, following the departure of current Chancellor Dr. Lawrence B. Alexander at the end of the month. Stewart has served as Provost and Vice Chancellor of Academic Affairs since 2023. Before that, she served as the Dean of the School of Arts and Sciences from 2013 to 2022. Dr. Stewart holds a doctorate in social work from Howard University and both a master's degree in social work and a bachelor's in sociology from the University of Arkansas at Little Rock. Stewart will only be the second woman in UAPB's history to take the helm when she assumes her duties on July 1st. Meanwhile, here in Pulaski County, a new partnership between the University of Arkansas Little Rock and local school districts is aiming to help ease students into classes on the city center campus. The Little Rock, North Little Rock, and Pulaski County special school districts are striking up a partnership with UA Little Rock that promises to streamline the path to college for Central Arkansas students. Undergraduate students from area Pulaski County schools who applied to UA Little Rock will now have their application fee waived, while their school transcripts are automatically delivered straight to the school system. The students will also be automatically considered for scholarships that will either lower or eliminate the cost of tuition and fees. You can learn more about this program right now on our website, THV11.com. The U.S. Surgeon General is calling for warning labels on social media, the same way we have them for alcohol and tobacco, alerting parents that using the platforms can be harmful for the mental health of adolescents. Jared Hill shares why the Surgeon General says it's no less urgent than dangers like automobile safety or foodborne illness.
Skewed and often distorted environment of social media often does a disservice to many of those children.
U.S. Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy has long warned of the dangers of social media. Monday, in a New York Times op-ed, the nation's top doctor called for warning labels on social media platforms, linking their use to significant mental health harms for teens. Murthy wrote the labels would regularly remind parents and adolescents that social media has not been proved safe. In a public advisory issued last year, Murthy cited a study that found adolescents who use social media for more than 3 hours a day face double the risk of poor mental health outcomes, including depression and anxiety. Warning labels like those on alcohol and tobacco products would bump up the call to action.
I think it's helpful for kids and families to have a cue to discuss this.
Dr. Sarah Jerstad, Medical Director of Outpatient Mental Health Services at Children's Minnesota, explains in teenagers, the frontal lobe, or decision-making part of the brain, isn't fully developed yet, leaving young people vulnerable.
They really are going to focus on what feels like kind of the most compelling, most exciting most interesting thing right in front of them. And sometimes that's going to have high risk to it that they're not able to fully evaluate the way an adult would.
While there are also benefits to social media, teenagers who spoke with us about this are keenly aware of the drawbacks.
Social media is like, it'll twist your mind into thinking that people are having like an awesome time because they're doing this and doing that. That also makes you feel like you're less than them.
Congress would have to pass legislation to create warning labels. Some lawmakers have voiced support, but say it's just the first step, and legal guardrails are needed to keep kids safe. Jared Hill, CBS News, New York.
And now to Maryland, where Governor Wes Moore pardoned tens of thousands of people convicted of low-level marijuana charges today, the largest blanket pardon in the country's history. It follows voters approving a state constitutional amendment to legalize recreational cannabis in Maryland. The Democratic governor says residents should no longer continue to face barriers to housing, employment, and educational opportunities based on a conviction for something that is no longer illegal. New tonight, bear sightings continue across central Arkansas. Just today, the Cabot Police Department put out a warning saying that one is in their city limits. THV 11's Brooke Buckner has advice from experts on what to do if you come face to face with one.
When you think of spotting a bear, you'd probably expect to find one in a place like this. But as we've seen on social media this past week, it's possible to see them in urban areas too. Arkansas Game and Fish says there are a few important things to remember if you encounter a bear.
And we see this pretty much May and June every year in Arkansas. And it's a sign of a healthy, robust bear population, which is what we want.
Trey Reed with Game and Fish says it's not as uncommon as you might think to spot a bear in the city. One even came close to his own house.
From the video I saw, probably went through my backyard or very close to it. We don't want to see them in urban areas necessarily either, but the silver lining is it's a sign of a healthy population.
Reed says it's hard to tell, though, if it's the same bear moving across the area.
They're not tagged, unless they had a tracking device, which we do track some subset of the bear population, but this one is not tagged, so there's really no way to know.
But a lot of the photos show a bear of the same size.
It's a small, likely year-and-a-half-old male, which is what these bears usually are when they show up in places like the middle of urban environments. They typically are males. And that's because it's part of the process of just what bears do.
If you happen to see one when you're out and about, he encourages you to make yourself look bigger.
They're scared of humans. They don't want anything to do with us.
But they do want some food. That's why he recommends bringing all food inside and securing your trash cans.
If he becomes habituated and expects these free meals, that's when we get into situations where relocating becomes less of an option and we might have to euthanize the bear. So don't feed the bear.
In Little Rock, Brooke Buckner, THV 11 News.
Thank you, Brooke. And if you do see a bear, you can report it to Game and Fish. Now, we want our vehicles' AC to run efficiently, especially with the heat we're seeing, but you might not be using the recirculation button properly. Everything you need to know at 5:19. Stay with us. Search and rescue efforts continue tonight for construction workers lost following the overnight collapse of Baltimore's Francis Scott Key Bridge. Everything we know in less than 1 minute.
Collapse prevention on Arkansas bridges. I'm Brooke Buckner, and coming up, I'll show you how crews are working to protect our bridges here in the natural state.
We're really kind of glad to get to this year mark to a degree, put it behind us and continue to move forward.
The difference a year makes. Just ahead, Jacksonville reflects on how far they've come since the March 31st tornado.
Plus, Supreme Court justices weigh access to abortion medication. At 5:06, what the arguments revealed about how they could rule in the high-stakes case.
As we come on the air tonight, we have a live look above the site of Baltimore's Francis Scott Key Bridge, where early this morning a huge cargo ship, you see there on your screen, hit the bridge, causing its collapse into the harbor.
Tonight, recovery efforts continue for 6 people apparently trapped on the bridge when the ship made contact.
We thank you for choosing THV 11 News tonight. I'm Rolly Hoyt.
And I'm Faith Woodard. We've been covering this unfortunate incident all day, and here's what we know about the bridge's collapse.
What Marylanders call the Key Bridge collapsed at 1:27 Eastern this morning after the massive 984-foot container ship hit one of its foundations. Authorities managed to stop most traffic, but 8 construction workers remained on duty on the bridge. Rescuers pulled 2 of them from the water, one of them in serious condition, another amazingly uninjured.
But 6 others are presumed dead tonight. Their employer plans to continue to search throughout the night. And because we have a lot of waterways and bridges here in the natural state, some are wondering if something similar could happen here.
THV 11's Brooke Buckner is live near the Arkansas River and shows us how crews are making sure our bridges are protected. Brooke.
Rolly, Faith, today I caught up with RDOT and the Corps of Engineers who say our bridges are prepared for the rare instance if barges or tows were to hit them. Now, this did happen back in 2002 on I-40 in Oklahoma, and RDOT says since then they've been designing the structures a bit differently to prevent similar incidents.
What hit that structure in Maryland was quite large vessel.
Here in Arkansas, RDOT spokesperson Dave Parker says we don't have any that big, but there are plans in place in case any of our barges or tows do hit a bridge.
We have protective devices, we have steel casings that are often filled with rocks and other ways to protect it should something strike the base of the bridge.
Jay Townsend with the Army Corps of Engineers says there are rules to make sure those on the water know what their speed should be when approaching bridges.
We have what's called the Red Book, and each of the mariners that are going up and down the river have one of these, and it tells them how fast they can approach and how fast they can exit. If we've got heavy outdrafts, then we make them actually come to a complete stop before they enter into the lock chamber.
All of these resources work together to reduce potential collisions.
And if they were to lose propulsion, they'd already be going at a slow enough speed that the possible collision would do very minimal amounts of damage.
And crews are constantly inspecting our bridges to make sure they're strong enough to withstand it.
Us, the Arkansas Department of Transportation and the Coast Guard work closely together to ensure that those bridges are safe from collisions. They've either got those protective cells upstream or downstream, or the protections built into the pier itself.
Now, Parker did use the I-40 Memphis Bridge as an example of one having really large concrete footings deep inside the water there in the Mississippi River to try and stabilize it a bit if it ever were to be hit. Now, there was an incident involving barges and a bridge here in Little Rock about 10 years ago. In October 2013, several bridges in central Arkansas were shut down after 2 barges came loose and hit the I-30 and Clinton Pedestrian Bridge pier protectors. Nobody was hurt, and the bridges were reopened a short time later after a thorough inspection. Reporting live in North Little Rock, Brooke Buckner, THV 11 News.
All right, Brooke, thanks a lot. Beautiful day today. Lots of sunshine. Temperatures made it to 60 in Little Rock. Much colder in northern Arkansas. I got a little bout of winter's revenge in the state. We're going to feel that tonight. Folks, if you planted anything in the ground over the last couple of 3 weeks because of the warm weather, again, you're going to have to cover it up. We have a frost advisory tonight for roughly the northern half of the state. Northwest Arkansas with a freeze warning as temperatures dip into the upper 20s and low 30s there by tomorrow morning. Here in the metro area, it's going to be around 35, 36 degrees. You get outside of Little Rock and the Heat Island. You go out west of Ferndale, up north, you go to Mayflower, probably looking at 33 or 34 degrees. Elsewhere around the state, not nearly cold enough, or not as cold. Expect temperatures in the upper 30s to low 40s. So once again tonight, a frost is possible. Here's where we are now. They're playing baseball up in northwest Arkansas. The temperature is 46 in Fayetteville. Little Rock still at 60, 63 Monticello. Those clouds should depart later on tonight, hour by hour. Our numbers dropping back into the upper 30s by 5, and I think we'll see around 35, 36 degrees here in the Little Rock metro area tomorrow morning by 6 and 7 o'clock. Hey, a nice warm-up is on the way just in time for Easter weekend. I'll have those details when we speak again.
All right, Tom, thank you. Sunday marks 1 year since an EF3 tornado tore through central Arkansas. One of the areas hit hard by the storm was the city of Jacksonville. Tonight, THV 11's Rebecca Brown sat down with the mayor to look back on that day and share his biggest takeaway from the city's road to recovery.
It may take a village to raise a child, but according to Mayor Jeff Elmore in Jacksonville, it's taken a whole community to rebuild this city 1 year later after the tornado.
Life-changing, and that seems kind of simple to say, but for our residents, for those who were impacted, even those who weren't directly impacted, there's still been residual effects that have affected them.
Just a few months into office, Mayor Jeff Elmore had to take on the biggest challenge of his career, managing a city that was hit by an EF3 tornado. Fortunately, he wasn't alone.
I watched our people come together, total strangers, people who didn't know each other. You may have people in the same street who didn't know each other, but people came together to help.
Piece by piece, they've rebuilt back the city they call home.
We're really kind of glad to get to this year mark, to a degree, put it behind us and continue to move forward and celebrate what the good that's going on here and changes that are taking place.
One of the biggest changes, Marshall Smith's Park, an area that suffered some of the most significant damage on that day.
Our new inclusive playground, so children of all abilities and walks of life can take part in it and come out here and play. If they're in a wheelchair or on a walker, to if they have no physical limitations at all, everybody can come enjoy it.
Despite the damage and loss, Mayor Elmore looks back on that day with hope and appreciation for the life and community.
All this stuff could be replaced, and it has been, and it's better now than it was then. So, we're thankful, but the fact that nobody died, we're blessed.
In Jacksonville, Rebecca Brown, THV 11 News.
Rebecca, thank you. And as that tornado anniversary arrives this weekend, we invite you to join us for a look back at the devastating day. March 31st, a tornado emergency airs Sunday morning at 10:30 and then again Monday in place of 6:30 Central. THV 11 update this evening. That third suspect wanted for a double homicide in Hot Springs late last week is now in custody. Police announcing the third juvenile turned himself in today without incident. He joins two other underage suspects charged with the capital murder of Adriana Howell and Mihaela Swayze Friday night. Howell died at the scene on Beard Street, Swayze after 2 days in the hospital. Police say the trio under arrest are also being charged with aggravated robbery.
Early voting is now underway for runoffs in Pine Bluff. Incumbent Mayor Shirley Washington is facing former state rep Vivian Flowers, who gave up her seat in the state legislature to run for the city's top role. Meanwhile, down the ballot, Pine Bluff voters are choosing a representative for Ward 3, incumbent Glenn Brown, and he is facing William Fells in that race. Polls at the Jefferson County Courthouse are open daily from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. The last day to early vote is April 1st and Election Day is April 2nd.
Meanwhile, on the steps of the Capitol, protests against the new male-female gender markers on state IDs. The crowd unhappy that a non-binary X will no longer be allowed. The local LGBT group Central Arkansas Pride launching the demonstration about a half hour ago. The head of the state agency in charge of IDs announced the ending of a policy that allowed an X on licenses about 2 weeks ago. Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders urging the policy change. Well, civil rights groups have voiced their opposition since then. We'll have updates once they wrap up on whether they plan any action beyond today's protest.
The Supreme Court hearing arguments again on a case dealing with abortion.
Yeah, a group of doctors opposed to abortion sued after the FDA had eased restrictions on the so-called abortion pill that made it more readily accessible.
Natalie Brand has more on the skeptical reception those doctors and their lawyers received.
Hundreds demonstrated outside the U.S. Supreme Court during arguments on access to the abortion drug mifepristone.
We thought it was really important to support women and their right to obtain abortion safely.
The number one premise for me is that chemicals should never be used to take innocent life.
In 2016, the FDA extended the window women can take mifepristone from 7 to 10 weeks. And during the pandemic, it said an in-person doctor's visit was not needed, allowing mail-order pharmacies to ship the drug nationwide. Aaron Hawley, who argued on behalf of some doctors opposed to abortion, says the FDA violated the law when it relaxed restrictions.
It's particularly appalling. The FDA based its 2021 decision to remove that in-person visit on studies it acknowledged were, quote, not adequate.
But FDA's ultimate conclusion was that mifepristone could safely be dispensed without in-person visits. It had voluminous evidence, I think, to support that conclusion in 2021, and there's been no contrary evidence that's been introduced.
The government also argued the doctors who brought the suit don't have legal standing because they were unlikely to be harmed by the changes.
Under federal law, no doctors can be forced against their consciences to perform or assist in an abortion, correct?
Yes, we think that federal conscience protections provide broad coverage here.
During arguments, both conservative and liberal justices focused on the issue of standing. Legal analysts say they appear inclined to side with the FDA. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the Supreme Court.
A final decision is expected by early July.
Independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. announcing his selection for his running mate today, and it's not a football player or a former wrestler. He instead chose California attorney and philanthropist Nicole Shanahan, who spent $4 million to fund Kennedy's Super Bowl ad.
Please listen to Bobby Kennedy in his own words. Take a look at his vision for America. It is a vision that I share too, as I spend the next 7 months of my life getting him on each and every ballot in this country.
Kennedy had to announce his pick for VP, with at least half of the states requiring him to designate one before he could apply to be on their ballots. Shanahan is 38, has no prior political experience. She founded and heads an organization that directs funds toward progressive causes. She's also the ex-wife of Google founder Sergey Brin. Other names floated for the slot included NFL quarterback Aaron Rodgers, TV personality Mike Rowe, and former wrestler and Minnesota governor Jesse Ventura.
A global power and cold storage is expanding their operations in Russellville, bringing more jobs and new opportunities to Polk County with a $90 million investment in a new facility. Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders was on hand hours ago celebrating the expansion.
But this will be one of the most advanced, highly automated, with more than 13 million cubic feet of storage space. And what Americold sees in our state is the same thing that companies from all over the world are starting to see and recognize.
Americold operates 11 other facilities in Arkansas. The expansion of Americold's operations will be 30 new jobs to the Russellville site.
Well, we've all seen them videos circulating online claiming to depict the collapse of the Key Bridge, but we've got some questions, and the Verify team is on the case coming up in 3 minutes. Thank you for joining us tonight at 5. I'm Rolly Hoyt. Faith has the night off. People across the globe starting their day on the wrong side of the keyboard as we all navigated a worldwide cyber outage. The effects could be seen at airports, banks, and businesses. Tonight, THV11's Brooke Buckner has an update on how Clinton National Airport is recovering from the outage and what travelers need to know heading into the weekend.
We're always anticipating the notion that we're going to be adding new students.
The deadline for Arkansas Learn school choice vouchers is approaching. In 5 minutes, how one school is adapting to the changes.
Total presidential immunity, a hard question now before the High Court. At 5:07, hear what legal experts think about former President Trump's arguments.
A year and a half after a nonprofit thrift store and food pantry caught fire, the church behind it is celebrating the opening of a new location. I'm Brooke Buckner, and coming up, I'll show you how this impacts low-income families.
Booked, busy, and blessed, a Little Rock couple has the wing game on lock. Coming up, Hayden is showing us where to go on your next food truck outing. It's almost time to eat it up.
As we come on the air tonight, dramatic differences in the skies above Little Rock. On your screen, you can see the relatively calm conditions right now above the Capitol. Quite a difference from a few hours ago. You can see the time-lapse video captured by our RView 11 cameras when a pretty nasty storm rolled into the area.
The question we have tonight is if any more of that is coming our way. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Faith Woodard alongside Rolly Hoyt. We want to go to Chief Meteorologist Tom Brannon, who can tell us if and when we'll see any more severe weather. Tom?
Well, guys, good evening. I don't think we're going to see it necessarily tonight, but as we work our way to tomorrow morning, a lot of storms in Oklahoma will be getting closer to Arkansas. Tonight, the tail end of that complex that affected us earlier is now in northeast Arkansas. There will be a smattering of a few light rain showers through the evening hours, but tomorrow morning into tomorrow afternoon, we will have that threat of severe weather. Also, a difference in air masses, very warm and tropical air mass and unstable air mass south of that warm front where it's 82 in El Dorado. Little Rock is at 60. 64. It's 55 in Harrison, and that warm air is going to win out over the next 24 hours. Tonight's lows falling back into the 50s, about 59 here. We'll be in the 60s over southern Arkansas, and they may actually rise a little after that boundary moves through your area. Tomorrow, setting up the risk, it is a slight risk of severe weather for the northwest half of the state. That does include the Little Rock area, and I'm going to say sometime around 9 o'clock we'll see that line move into northwest Arkansas, eventually getting into central Arkansas sometime in the early to mid-afternoon hours. And again, all modes of severe weather are possible tomorrow. I'll walk you through the timing once again of these storms, and we'll talk about a very active weekend the next time we see one another.
We begin tonight with the national headline coming out of Fayetteville.
In just under an hour, the Arkansas Razorbacks will welcome John Calipari as the new head basketball coach. Thank you for joining us at 5. I'm Faith Woodard.
And I am Rolly Hoyt. Coach Cal choosing to leave the Kentucky Bluegrass for these greener pastures. Since the news first broke on Sunday night, the state has been buzzing.
THV 11 Sports' Tyler Cass joins us live now from outside Bud Walton Arena ahead of tonight's celebration.
Tyler, take it away.
Yeah, guys, it is pouring down rain here in Fayetteville, but it's definitely not raining on anyone's parade. The fans have been streaming in here for about an hour now. They're about to open the doors at 5 o'clock for fans to get inside. You see behind me, yeah, they're all waiting, all under umbrellas. More and more coming in as we speak because everyone wants to be here for John Calipari and his announcement as the head coach of Arkansas men's basketball. The fun officially got started this morning at 9 a.m. on the dot when the Board of Trustees officially approved the contract and the Razorbacks put out all over social media that Calipari had been announced. Then Hunter Yurachek took off on the plane to Lexington, picked up Coach Cal and his family, and headed for Drake Field here in Fayetteville. Once they landed right after 2, they were met by a huge crowd of Razorback fans, and Cal, for the first time, we got to see him step off the plane wearing Razorback red. I'm sure there will be a lot more of that in the future. We also got the contract details today, and here's what you need to know. It's a 5-year deal for Coach Cal, worth $7 million a year in salary. That will make him the highest paid coach on campus and the second highest paid men's basketball coach in the country. He also gets a $1 million signing bonus. And then the other side of things, if Cal were to leave before that 5 years is up, he has to pay the university a $6 million buyout. If Arkansas chooses to terminate the contract before it is over, they have to pay 75% of what is remaining on that contract. Of course, no one wants to think about that possibility. They want to think about the incentives instead. There's extra bonuses for making an NCAA tournament and then for each round all the way up to a national championship. It's just the 3rd time this century that a coach who has won a Division I national championship has left the school that he won that championship at and come right to another school. First time it's happened within the same conference, and this thing is huge. Fans have started to be let into the arena now. Even though the rain, I expect hundreds, if not thousands, to welcome Coach Calipari. We'll be back and with the view from inside Bud Walton in just a few minutes. For now, though, live from Fayetteville, Tyler Cass, THV 11 Sports. Guys.
Remarkable stuff there, Tyler. We're getting a Hall of Fame coach at the height of his career coming to town.
All right.
Well, Tyler, thanks. THV 11, by the way, will be your home for all the extensive coverage of all things Coach Cal. Stay with us as his formal introduction comes our way here at 6. It'll be followed by his first time squaring off with the Arkansas media at 6:30. Look for those questions to be just as tough as the ones he faced in Lexington for 15 years. And as always, you can keep up with the story at home or on the go with THV11.com.